I'm back now in main activity in our project, looking at the onPreviewClicked method. So we can see in this method there's quite a lot of lines, quite a lot happening, just to do something fairly simple. We're retrieving all of the values from the form and saving each one to its own variable here. And then after we create our preview activity intent, we're putting each individual value one by one as an extra and naming it as such. Hopefully you're seeing that this doesn't appear to be the most optimal way of doing this, the cleanest way of coding this. If I just jump over to the preview activity, we have a similar problem. We have to retrieve each extra one by one, save it to a variable, and then we use those variables one by one. So if I just go back to main activity, so having learned about Kotlin classes, and in particular that data class, this would be a perfect opportunity to create a class for our message, which will basically be a data container. It will hold those values. Okay, so let's go ahead now and create this class before then coming back to here and then refactoring this, which is the posh word for changing the code to improve it. You can press the target button to get to the folder that we're in. So there's my package. I'm going to right click and do new Kotlin class. So not new activity now, just a new class and a Kotlin class this time. And selecting the word class, we'll simply call this, with a capital M of course, message, and then enter. So we have a new class, and all this class is going to do is hold each of those variables, a data container. So this is a perfect opportunity for us to use our new data class. So in front of the word class, type the word data in lowercase, and we're getting a warning because in a data class you must have a constructor with at least one value, at least one property. So let's go ahead now and delete the two curly brackets. We're not going to have a body in this message for now. So delete those and do your curly brackets, and now we need to put at least one value. Let's put these into here one by one, and we'll make all of them a val, a VAL. As once we make our new message object and give all the values once, we're not going to need to change those values later. So let's put all those properties in this constructor now. So val contact name is a string, val contact number is a string. Notice how I'm making all of these non-nullable. One of the benefits of the Kotlin constructor. We have val my display name string. Apologies, it's going to be a long line again, but we are going to do something about this in just a second. My display name string. Then val include junior, which is a boolean. Then val job title, which is a string. Then val immediate start, which is another boolean. And then if not, val the start date, which will be a string. So that's all of our properties in our constructor for our Kotlin data class. Okay. Now something I'm going to point out just now. You may have noticed throughout this course this faint grey guideline that Android Studio puts in. This is a recommendation that really our code shouldn't be any wider than that. So in the case of something like this, a constructor with lots of properties, lots of parameters like this, we can actually put these parameters on separate lines and it's absolutely fine in Kotlin. So a quick and easy way to do this, you can click anywhere inside the constructor and you can do Alt Enter or Option Enter, and you'll see there's an option to put parameters on separate lines. And if you go ahead and select that and press Enter, it will format this nicely for us. Okay, you see that? It puts each one on its own line with a nice indent, still separated by commas like that. And now we have our data class, we can see all of our properties there, but because they're inside these regular curly brackets you see there, it is still a constructor. So that it will format this nicely for Alt Enter. And you'll see there's an option to put parameters on separate lines. And if you go ahead and select that and press Enter, it will format this nicely for us. Okay, you see that? It puts each one on its own line with a nice indent, still separated by commas like that. And now we have our data class, we can see all of our properties there, but because they're inside these regular curly brackets you see there, it is still a constructor. So that's a nice, neat and tidy data class. So we can now go back to main activity and start using this class. So in main activity, I'm going to make a few line breaks between the variables and the intent. And we'll make our new message class here. So VAL, message with a lowercase. We could specify the type, we could say it's a type message, but when we do equals, and our message class with a capital M, Kotlin will infer that, so we'll do exactly that. And then we do our brackets. So that's our new object. And if you look above, you can see the prompt there, prompting us for our 7 values. So we could go ahead and put contact name, contact number like that. But you know what, we don't actually need those local variables. So what we'll do instead is we will extract the values from the widgets on the screen directly into our constructor. Let me show you what I mean. If I just undo those two variables. So for contact name, I'm going to copy this edit text.text.toString and put that in directly. Okay? And then a comma, and then the edit text contact number. Okay, so you see what I'm doing here? I'm copying the actual value directly from the screen and loading that into our constructor. No need for the local variable. So another comma, copy. And as you can see, already this line is getting quite long. So I can click anywhere inside these brackets, anywhere inside this object constructor. I can do Alt Enter or Option Enter, and you'll see we have the option to put arguments on separate line. Now don't worry too much about the word arguments there. I've been referring to the things inside our methods, inside our constructors as parameters throughout this course. Parameter is the name for the thing when you write the constructor, when you write the method. P for the thing you expect to be passed in. Argument is the actual value. So here we're actually passing in the value. So A for actual values, A for arguments, and P for the thing you expect to be passed in, P for parameters. Okay? So arguments, parameters, similar but not the same. So these are the arguments, the actual things we're passing in. I'm going to go ahead now and put the rest of these on individual lines. So new line, comma, job title, comma, immediate start, comma, and start date. Okay? Now we have an error, and that's because this is a nullable type string. Remember, select title could be null. We put this question mark here, okay? So, dead easy fix. We go back to our message class, and for our job title, we make it of nullable type. And you know what? If the user selects immediate start, if they can start immediately, then we should pass in null for the start date as well. So we'll make start date also nullable, okay? But we'll demand that the other 4 values are indeed definitely passed in. And the error goes away. So, these are our arguments, the actual value we give it. These are the parameters, the things that we want passing in, okay? So, now that we have our message class, with all the values given to it in the constructor, we can remove all of these local variables. So now we just have one variable. We still have a problem though in that we were passing each individual value one by one with its own individual name. Now we could simply replace this with message.contactName and message.contactNumber. We could do that, but it kind of doesn't achieve what we wanted, which is to only pass one thing across to our new screen, this complete message class. So let's go ahead and delete all of these extras. Now, let's see what happens when we try to put our message variable as an extra. So we'll do preview activity intent.putExtra. We'll call it our message, and then we'll try and put in the message variable. Okay, we have a problem. None of the intent put extra methods can handle this type of object. You see there's a whole bunch there, boolean, string, int, double. So a message isn't one of these types. So how can we possibly give an intent to this message object? And if you look near the top of this error, there's one type of variable we can do, and that is called serializable. So in the next tutorial, we're going to look at the quick and easy way that we can make our message class serializable, and we're also going to dig into exactly what serializable means. So let's do that next. It's time for the final programming concept of this section, which is on serializable, or serialization. In the last tutorial, we saw that we have a problem passing our message object into an intent, because it's not a string, it's not an int, it's not one of these simple types. But we did see that there's a type near the top of the suggestion of this error called serializable. Okay? Now for this tutorial, the actual change we need to make is very, very small. It's just one symbol and one word. So I could go ahead now and tell you what to type, and that'd be the end of it. It would take about 15 seconds. However, even though the process of what happens under the hood with serialization is rather complex, I do think it's important that you understand fundamentally what serialization is. So we're going to head over to a Scratch file now and go through this in a way that hopefully will make sense, and even though we don't really need to know what happens under the hood with the way that serialization works, we at least know what it is and why it's important. So open up the Scratches and Consoles folder, and open up Scratches. Now we are going to do this concept in Kotlin, but it's not a Kotlin file. And I'm just going to rename the file now. So right click on Scratch, refactor, rename the file, and we'll rename it to, it's going to be, and we'll do val, and just above this class, let's make a val, we'll call it my person. So we'll make some comments above this, some recap stuff. So when we make a new object, this instance, this version of the class, this instance, it's live in memory. So our app, our code is running, and there's a bit of memory space where all of our apps processes live. So this instance is alive in memory, in our app's memory, okay? So let's expand upon this point. It lives within the runtime environment for our app, the ART, or the Dalvik virtual machine on very, very old phones. But just let's think of this as the Android runtime. So we make a new object in our app. This object lives, it's stored, it's saved, but it's within our app, it's in our app's memory space, okay? So what happens if we want to send this somewhere else? If we want to send it to another app, or we want to save it, close our app down, and then come back into our app and then have this object back again, recreate it again. The object that's alive now in memory is no good to us because that won't exist anymore, okay? And even though our activities are single independent focused things that a user can do, they kind of live separately. So the fact we have a person object or something alive in one activity, that's kind of no good to the next activity. We need a way of passing that to the new activity, or indeed a new activity in a different app, okay? So let's make a comment to explain what I'm talking about here. If we want to send an object somewhere outside of our current live environment, we need to, there's a posh word coming up here, persist it. I'll just put in brackets after this. So by persist, what I mean is save it, store it, storing it. We need to object our message to me, our current key. So let's, as intents, if you remember, can be used to pass data to other Android apps. Application. We need a way to save it, to store it somehow. Yes. So these simple things, already built into Android, already built into Java, is the ability to save those, to store class. So an object like our person is you could persist something, could save something. Serialization. We can make the other system, not even Android, Java. But our living object is converted to the stream of bytes, and it's based somewhere, all those bytes could be converted to bytes, and those bytes saved it. So serialization is the process of taking a living object, converting it to some bytes, saving that somewhere, and then reading those bytes and recreating the object exactly as it was. And then just in your own way, or changing it as one symbol and one word, it's done by just adding serialized. When the intent would handle the serialization for us. We don't need to do anything. I need it. These bytes are saved somewhere. For example, it could be from where they were persisted or stored. And finally, these bytes are used to recreate the object as it was before. Let's remove that line break. The symbol is to make a class serialized name string and a valid age int. After those brackets, we just, you see at the top, we've imported this serializable thing, okay? Later on, we can get into what this colon means when we do our Kotlin foundations on inheritance, and especially we can see what the serializable thing is in the next section, where we take a proper look at what an interface is. But all you need to know right now is to make any basic data class, any class with simple values like this, serializable, to make it able to be saved or persisted, you can add colon serializable, and then the Android system or the Java system will take care of the rest for us. So, one final note, we add colon serializable to tell Java that instances or objects of this class can be persisted or stored. So let's now jump over back to our project and quickly apply this. So in main activity, you can see it's saying this message can't be stored as any of those types, but third from the top we see serializable as a type. So we go to our message class, which I still have open, and at the very end, after the closing bracket, there's a space, a colon, and then serializable like that. And when I go back to main activity, the error goes away. We've made our class serializable. I'm going to remove the line breaks, tidy this method up a bit. So we've now successfully put our nice tidy message class into the intent, and the next tutorial we can go ahead and retrieve this new message class and start using the values directly from our message class. It's time for the final program to be persisted. Or can be stored as any of those types, but third from the top we see serializable as a colon, and then serializable like that. Now we have our new message class, and we made it serializable, so we can put it in our intent as an extra. It's time to move to our preview activity and retrieve this. So let's head to preview activity now. So I'm now actually going to delete everything after set content view. I'm going to do this again properly. So let's remove all of these lines. So the first thing we need to do is now retrieve our message intent. So we'll make a new variable and we'll call it message. So the first thing we need to do is access the app compat activities intent, the intent that started it. And we do that simply by typing intent. So this is the intent that started the activity. So now we can do get. There's all those different types there, string extra, int extra, boolean extra, but we now need to get serializable extra. So we'll do speech marks, and the name of this serializable extra was message. Now we have one problem. If I try and make the message type be of type message, well, Android knows that this is a serializable class. It's found a serializable object, but it doesn't know that it's a message. It could be anything. Person, dish, project, message, whatever class could be serializable. Okay. So there's one final thing we need to add. We need to tell Android specifically what this class is. And we do that by saying as message. So we have a serializable object and we're converting it to a message. We're saying this serializable, let's have it as a message, please. I think it reads quite well. This serializable as a message. This is a thing called casting, which we haven't covered at all yet, and I will do a deeper dive into that when we see it more frequently. But in simple terms, it's a way of telling Java or Kotlin that a more vague type of object, like an object parent or a serializable object or something a bit ambiguous, we're specifically saying what exact type of class it is. So this vague serializable object, let's have that as a message, please. We can get rid of specifying the type there. We can let Kotlin infer that. Now we have to be careful with this, because if we get it wrong, if we say it's as something else, that's not actually a boolean, it's not actually a dish or a project, there will be a crash here. Not a null pointer exception, but a different kind of crash, a class cat exception. Okay? In simple terms, we make the vague serializable object into our specific message object, and we are sure we know that it's a message from the way that we've coded this. Now we have our new message class, something else that's not actually a boolean, it's not actually a dish or a project. There will be a crash here, some kind of crash exception, okay? In simple terms, we make the vague serializable object into our specific message object, and we are sure we know that it's a message from the way that we coded this. So we now have our message object exactly like it was in the previous screen. So now would be a good time to build out our message exactly as we want to format it. So underneath, make a new variable and call it our message preview text. And we'll just make this equal to an empty string for now. So we're going to be doing quite a long message now, and it's probably going to have several lines. Now you can put line breaks into a regular string. I could do hello, and I can put a line break in with a very specific thing, a backslash and an n, something called a string literal, which we don't need to focus on too much now. But a slash n inside a string, you can see that Android Studio colours that orange. That will put in a blank line for us. So I can do hello, blank line, and then this is my next paragraph. And I'll put one complete line space between hello, the first line break for the next line, and the next line break for a complete empty line between these two, okay? But this is going to be a very, very long line. So Kotlin has another very useful thing it can do with strings. If you delete all this and do 3 speech marks, and you can see that it auto-completes the closing 3, so we have a total of 6 speech marks. Well, if I now make a line break, you can see it's added the words trim indent, but don't worry too much about that right now. Well, this is now what Kotlin calls a raw string. It's a different type of string literal to our /n. And what this means is everything we type inside these pairs of 3 speech marks will be interpreted literally in its raw form. So any line breaks, any special characters will be included as part of our string. And this is the raw string feature, which is yet another bonus of Kotlin. So now we have this string literal in this space here, exactly as you see it, underneath the first 3, but above the last 3, we can fully type out our message now. So we'll do hi, and then we're going to access our message object. So do $message autocomplete, but we don't just want the whole message, we want a specific property. So if you do full stop, and we'll do contact name, and you can see it's put the variable inside these curly brackets now. If you just use the variable on its own, no need for the brackets, but if you call any of the properties, then you do need the brackets like that. But Kotlin will take care of that for us. So we have hi contact name, we'll do a comma, a line break, and then another line break. You can format this message however you like, or you can copy mine, it's entirely up to you. So my name is $message, full stop, my display name. I'm going to move the cursor outside the brackets, and I am. Now this is the point where I would say if I'm junior or not, and it's also the point where I would say which of the 2 job titles. So it could be I am a junior Android engineer, I am an Android engineer, I am a junior Android developer. But there's a slight problem, well, in English anyway, because junior doesn't start with a vowel, but Android engineer does. So if I'm a junior, I would say I am a junior. But if I'm not a junior, I would say, and I am an Android engineer. So we've got a slight English formatting issue here. So I can put a lot of complicated code inside the preview activity. I can do these. If they're junior, say this. If they're not junior, say that. But actually, I think it'll be a lot tidier to do this as a method on our message class. So let's go to our message class now. After serializable, do the curly bracket. So now we have the class body. And let's do a function called fun get full job description, just like that. And then curly brackets. So we can do the if statement and the logical stuff inside here. So let's say if include junior. So if we're including junior in our greeting, we'll do some stuff. Else if they're not junior, we'll do some other stuff. So if they are junior, then we'll say I am a speech mark, a junior, and then the job title. I am a junior Android engineer. I am a junior Android developer. Otherwise, we just say an Android engineer, an Android developer. Okay, so nice and simple. If they do include junior Android engineer, a junior Android developer. Otherwise, an Android engineer. Of course, we need to return a string. So to specify the return type, we do colon string afterwards. Okay, and now we get an error because we must return something. So we could do return junior job title. Otherwise, return the other value. Just want to format that. Now look how clever Kotlin and Android Studio can be. This is saying return should be lifted out of if. So in Kotlin, you can actually return an if statement directly. Let me show you what this means. Do Alt Enter, Option Enter, lift return out of if. So you see, they put the return before the if. So we have to type the word return twice, which is great. Let's see if we can clean this up even further. Well, we're actually allowed to put the if all on one line. So let's actually remove this curly bracket and delete. Okay, remove this curly bracket and delete. Remove this curly bracket and delete. And then remove the final curly bracket and then auto format. So if you have a very simple one-liner if statement like that, you can put it all on one line. So return if junior this, else that. What else could we do? Well, now the whole function is a one-liner. So from your knowledge of the Kotlin foundations on functions, what could we do? We can make the whole function a function expression. So if you click on return and do Alt Enter, Option Enter, you can convert it to an expression body. If I just delete that, do you see that? So no more curly brackets. We swap the curly brackets for an equal sign. And what else can we do with Kotlin? Well, rather than specify string specifically, we can let Kotlin infer that. So how much simpler, clearer, and less typing is Kotlin than Java? We've gone from this, a full block body with 2 returns, all the way to a one-liner. The other thing we should do while we're here is sort out the availability. So let's do another function called get availability. We'll make this equal to we'll do another if statement. If it's an immediate start, we'll just say the word immediately. Else, if it's not an immediate start, we can start from the start date. So 2 useful little functions in our message class that will format this nicely for us. Notice how we don't need any curly brackets in this function expression because we have our if statement all on one line. Okay? This will look probably quite new, quite alien to you, but I just thought I'd show you the way that the pros do it, taking advantage of many benefits of Kotlin: function expressions, type inference, and inline if statement, and string templating. Lots of cool Kotlin stuff there. Now we can go back to our preview activity and use these functions. So my name is message.myDisplayName, and I am a message.getFull job description function. We can call that function directly in our string. How cool is that? We'll do a full stop. Let's do the next line. I have a portfolio of apps to demonstrate my technical skills. And remember, guys, you do have a portfolio of apps that's growing with every section. That I can show on request. Let's do a new line. I am able to start a new position, $message, and we'll get the availability. That's going to say either I can start a new position immediately or I can start a new position from our date. So full stop. Please get in touch if you have any suitable roles for me. Thanks and best regards. Full stop. And we'll delete the last line. So that's a message that I think is formatted quite well. You are totally free to change this however you would like. You can change that get full job description method and the get availability method. You can do anything you want with the values that we have in our message object, okay? As for this .trim indent that is put at the very end, because this is a string little, it would put all of these tabs or spaces in for a message, and our message would look really weird. So Android Studio has been quite helpful there. When we did enter on that string little, it knows we probably don't want to keep the indents in, so it will automatically remove all of these silly indents, okay? Just going to delete that for you. So that should be all we need to do. So now we can set this variable, this message preview text, on our text view. So let's do text view message.text equals our message preview text, and then let's see what this looks like. So let's go ahead and run the app. So I'm going to fill out this form. So the contact name can be Rachel Recruiter, contact number the usual, easy to type. My name, Vin Norman. I'll say I am junior. Go for Android engineer just for a change, and I'll say immediate start for this example. And preview message. Hi, Rachel Recruiter. My name is Vin Norman, and I am a junior Android engineer. So that leads nicely. I have a portfolio of apps to demonstrate my technical skills that I can show on request. I am able to start a new position immediately. Please get in touch if you have any suitable roles for me. Thanks and best regards. So in my opinion, that would be a really polite and professional way to introduce myself to a recruiter. And now I've got an app to do it for me automatically. We will do the send message functionality very soon. If I go back and change this form, I'll do it again. Richard Recruiter, Rachel's brother, 0771 22334. My name, I'll do my posh name now, Vincent Norman. I won't include junior. I'll leave it as Android developer, and now I'll do an available from date. I'll say 24th of December, Christmas Eve, 2020. And I'll do preview message. My name is Vincent Norman, and I am an Android developer, so that's formatted nicely. I'm able to start a new position from 24th of 12, 2020. So that is the bulk of our app, working very, very nicely. Not much more now to do to get this fully working. So well done if you've made it to this point. We're nearly there.